Hey guys, Tom Barclay here, back with another Tottenham video. I've been at Spurs' press conference today, the first Premier League press conference for Roberto De Zerbi this season ahead of Saturday's trip to Brentford. And there was loads to talk about after what's been a very exciting summer in the transfer market, an exciting few days with the news about Savinho, whose name obviously came up in the press conference. I'll come on to that in a minute. But first of all, as ever, thank you so much everyone who follows these videos. I'm planning on doing far more of them this season, as you may have noticed already since I've come back to it on a more regular basis. So please, guys, if you can, like and subscribe and give it a hype when you can. It really helps the reach of these videos and inspires me to do obviously more and more and more. This week I did something new. I did a little sort of preview to the Brentford game, looking at Brentford's sort of tactical side of things. I'm just trying a few things out at the moment. I thought that might be kind of interesting in the midweek. So if you haven't seen that, please go back and check it out on the feed. I'll put it on the link in below. And during this video, I'm going to talk through what Roberto De Zerbi spoke about in the open part of his press conference today. A number of things came up. And I'll also do the likely lineup I think Spurs will play right at the end, so stick around for that. If you're not aware, I am finally up and running on various other socials, not just YouTube. Been on Twitter for ages at Tom Barclay _. So if you don't follow me on there, please check it out. But I'm also on TikTok now. I think it's Tom Barclay Journalist. Instagram, Tom Barclay _Barclay _, I think. And I will be getting up on Facebook soon enough. So try my best to increase the reach of all this stuff. And please, as ever, I very much appreciate everyone who spreads the word. Anyway, on to Roberto De Zerbi's press conference. The first thing, Micky van der Ven is the new Tottenham Hotspur captain. Was always a likely candidate. There was some talk about James Maddison, but I think Micky van der Ven, after his filling in on a regular basis for Christian Romero when he wasn't available, which happened a lot last season, was always a very likely candidate, especially after he signed a new 5-year deal and very much nailed his colours to the Tottenham flag this summer. De Zerbi revealed it. Sometimes we ask things in press conferences and you're not really sure if you're going to get much out of it. You chance your arm, but he gave a full and lengthy answer and named a number of his vice captains too. So Micky van der Ven is the captain. Obviously, Romero's gone to Atletico Madrid now, so there was a vacancy there. Pedro Porro, the World Cup winner, is his vice captain. Then Ben Davis, the longest serving member at the club in the squad, and got to be one of the longest serving players in any Premier League squad, is the third choice. James Maddison, aforementioned James Maddison, is the fourth captain. And Archie Gray, who's captained the team throughout many of the games in pre-season and is probably quite likely to captain the team tomorrow, we'll come on to that, is the fifth choice captain. Why does he want so many captains? He just wants loads of captains on the pitch. He really wants that kind of responsibility in amongst his squad, and has done so by creating a sort of leadership group, I guess, if you like. I cover England on a regular basis. Gareth Southgate very much liked a leadership group during his Euro 2024 squad and before. De Zerbi having a bit of an international flavour by having a bit of a leadership group here. But Van der Ven is the first choice. I think a very good choice. I like the idea of him playing with Van Hecke. I think Van Hecke, from what I'm told and what I've seen so far, is a bit more of a vocal person on the pitch. Not saying Micky isn't vocal, but Van Hecke is particularly vocal. And I think the dynamic between the two of them could work really nicely. But Van der Ven, obviously a player who had a difficult season last year, a difficult season the season before due to injury, but someone we all know what a talent he is when he can stay fit and how quick he is and everything he can bring. And De Zerbi's already spoken about him last season being the best left-sided centre-back in the world, or in the Premier League at least. And you do really feel like under De Zerbi's stewardship, he could go on to become one of, if not the best centre-back in the world. So a fitting choice. But he won't be available for the Brentford game. Which doesn't come as a surprise. He wasn't training this week, at least on Wednesday. He has barely featured, if featured at all, in any of the pre-season games. And he's still got a fitness issue, basically. It was a bit vague on what the issue is particularly. He was asked about it, De Zerbi, and he said he had a small problem in Australia during pre-season and even talked about the flight, but was very vague about it. But he said it wasn't a big problem and that today being Friday, he was with the group, but he's just not going to be available for this game. Same goes for his vice-captain, Pedro Porro. Again, not a huge surprise. Kind of felt maybe slightly more of a chance that he might be involved than Van de Ven, but he has only just come back. Obviously, he hasn't played any minutes in pre-season. Comes back as a World Cup champion, of course, but given his lack of minutes, he's not quite there fitness-wise either, so he won't be involved in the game either. Another player who's going to miss out is Pape Matar, a player who's a subject of interest from Galatasaray in Turkey, and someone who, to be honest, I would be surprised was still there after the window. I know De Zerbi rates him highly, but purely from a numbers game in midfield, he's just got so many players in that area. Like when you think of the two players that are vying for the two deeper lying midfield positions, he's spent 185 million on Tonali and Fernandes. They're surely going to play when available, but if it's not them, he's got Rodrigo Bentancur. If it's not Bentancur, it's Lucas Bergvall. If it's not Lucas Bergvall, it could well be Archie Gray. If it's not Archie Gray, it could be Conor Gallagher playing in a deeper position, and I feel like I've missed some other players out as well. So Pape Sarr will one to watch, I guess, but he's not going to be involved because of apparently a hamstring issue here at Brentford. A number of players are going to be at least included in the squad. How involved they'll be on the day of the game, if they'll play in the actual match, we'll wait to see. But players that have had injury question marks around them throughout pre-season, let's be honest, over the last few years. Dominic Solanke is going to be involved. James Maddison's going to be involved. Destiny Udogi's going to be involved in the squad. Matheus Fernandes, the £85 million signing, not so much of a surprise that he is going to be involved, given that he played in that behind closed doors game at the weekend against Hoffenheim on a Sunday. And Mohamed Kudus won't be involved, but he is apparently very close to coming back. So, look, there's a lot of players who've been out for a long time or have had intermittent multiple injuries like Destiny Udogi, but we all know what potential they have. And given the players that are signing, suddenly Spurs squad, if it ever gets up to full fitness, if squads ever do, it looks very, very exciting at the moment. On that note, we might as well move to transfers. Savinho, the big news of the day is that a deal has finally been agreed for Savinho after all this time during the summer. And let's be honest, beyond that, he was a target last summer, ended up signing a new contract at City, but didn't really quite work out. And when Pep Guardiola left, it felt like could well be the end of the road for Savinho. They've driven a hard bargain, City, as they often do. They're one of the best sellers around in the league, along with Chelsea. One for Tottenham to learn from, I guess. But Enzo Maresca revealed today at his press conference, the City manager, that Savinho wanted to leave from day one of him taking over. So this has been a move long in the offing. It was just a matter of Spurs getting a deal done and the deal agreed. And it is a lot of money. It really is. £75 million plus another 10 in add-ons. 85 million quid, that is, for a player who scored, I think, 2 Premier League goals, maybe 9 assists. Someone who's shown moments of potential in an excellent City side, but one that is yet to convince. And I can see why a lot of Spurs fans are slightly worried about spending such a lot of money on an unproven player, really, and a player who's only shown potential rather than real end product and delivery. What I would say is he's 22. He's a Brazil international. Guardiola rated him, and Roberto De Zerbi really rates him as well. And he's a player that the club and De Zerbi have really wanted for quite a long time. So hopefully it's someone who comes in, is very transformative in those out wide positions, and really starts to show quickly what that potential is all about. Because Spurs have already got a lot of potential in wide positions. Matisse Tell is that. Wilson Odobert is obviously injured at the moment, but he is that as well. George Sessions, my good friend on the Tottenham Way podcast, which if you haven't seen, go check out. We did our predictions this week, so search at the Tottenham Way on YouTube for that. Has always been a bit cold on Savinho, purely because he feels like another winger with potential rather than a ready-made player, which when you consider Tonali and other players who've come in, they are oven-ready players. But yeah, I would just go to the fact that De Zerbi seems very much enamoured with this signing. You've got to back him and his vision. He didn't talk about Savinho. He said he wouldn't talk about players who aren't Spurs players yet. But he did say he's very happy generally with the business, and that the business isn't done yet. There is going to be more activity, or very likely to be more activity. We all know that Spurs are trying to do a deal for Savinho's City teammate, Omar Mamouche, and then there could even be other faces after that. Cody Gakpo is another name that's been mentioned a lot. They do like him. The last I heard is that Liverpool aren't so keen to let him go. Iraola likes him quite a lot, has been impressed with him in pre-season, and Iraola even himself talks about the need for new wingers. They've obviously made a bid for Minter this week at Brighton. I suppose if they do somehow bring in Barclay, then maybe things can change. But at the moment, I wouldn't be so confident on Gakpo coming through the door at Spurs. But I wouldn't be surprised if a third signing, if Abramovich does get signed, could still happen. Spurs very ambitious this summer. Um, he said he's been working really, really well with Johan Lange and Vinay Venkatesham and Nick Boucher as well this summer, and spoke about all the targets they've signed this summer, even before he agreed to sign in on March 31st in take over in April, really, which shows you that Spurs and the Lewis family are making good on their promises to De Zerbi. And I think we can all see that, to be fair, from the business they've done so far this summer. He's also was asked about the massive transfer fees that are going for these players, very unlike Spurs. But it's not just Tottenham. Chelsea have spent £117 million on Morgan Rogers, £116 million on Elliot Anderson for Man City. And he just was pretty philosophical about it, saying you just have to accept it or not. It's not about whether it's fair or not. But he was a bit tetchy about the idea that people are getting their backs up over Spurs finally spending this kind of money, and just said, I've heard too often, Tottenham money. Maybe it's a problem for the Premier League. That Spurs are finally spending money, but from a Spurs perspective, it's just something that's probably long overdue and much needed. And this is obviously something that Spurs really need to build on. This kind of massive transfer spend this summer, that goes without saying. He's talked about the fact he's only been here effectively 3 months or so, but it feels like, or 3 or 4 months, but he feels like he's been here 10 years. And the 2 targets this season now are to find the soul of the team. He kept using the word soul throughout. And to improve the organisation of the team. I feel like last season was this special mission to try and save the club. That was all they cared about, trying to stay up from beat relegation, which they managed to do. It's all about now building something to last, something to compete long term, and hopefully we'll really see the real Roberto De Zerbi Tottenham this season. What else did he say? He talks about it being a big season for the medical staff after 2-3 seasons of disaster on the injury front. So that again sort of goes without saying, but fingers crossed they do have a better season on that front, because it's been a nightmare, let's be honest, for the last couple of managers, including most notably Ange Postecoglou, having to deal with so many injuries. He admitted it was a big advantage not to have Europe this season. Goes without saying again, I keep saying using that phrase. I'll stop saying that, but it does go without saying it is a big advantage for Spurs not to be in Europe this season in their pursuit of getting to the Champions League or getting back to European football or pursuing the cup competitions. Just having those free midweeks. But he was saying he hopes not to have too many free midweeks, because there are 3 competitions his team are going for this season, and he'd obviously prefer to be in Europe every year, and that's what he feels like Spurs deserve. On the transfer front, on outgoings, he said he was very disappointed to lose to Jed Spence. He loved him as a player, but he couldn't guarantee him minutes. He said Porro at right back, he had one of the best fullbacks in the world. At left back, he's got Udogie and Robertson, great players. He couldn't guarantee 38 Premier League games a season for Spence, which is understandable, and that's why he had to let him go. He doesn't plan, interestingly, on signing a new right back, which I wonder how Archie Gray will feel about that. Gray's been filling in, obviously, for Porro this summer, and will do again, I imagine, against Brentford. But he doesn't want to play there. He wants to be a central midfielder. He will do a job because he's that kind of character, but long term, definitely, he wants to play central midfield. I say long term, he wants to do it now, really, after years of being playing in all these different positions, but central midfield, barring that excellent little run under Igor Tudor, as disastrous as the Tudor reign was. Archie Gray was a shining light in that period, but he named him De Zerbi. He named Gray being able to play at right back, and feels like that's an area where he's got it covered at the moment. And he doesn't want too many players in his squad. This is going to be an issue already with the amount of players he's got this season, with a lack of games, trying to keep everybody happy. He said that he wants sort of 21, 22 players max, and he likes the versatility of someone like a Gray, someone like a Kudus who can play number 10 as well as on the wing, or a Bergvall or a Gallagher, rather, he named, play the number 10 or as a number 8. So there are options there, which also hints that more players will probably leave before the window closes, if you consider Gallagher also as a number 8 option. Someone like Sarr, surely you'd think would be on their way. And then just finally, he was asked about Dejan Kulusevski. He's one of Spurs' finest players, but someone who hasn't played for such a long time, sadly, because of that patella injury sustained in May last year against Crystal Palace. Been a horrible road for him, missing the World Cup, missing all of last season. He is working, he is training at the moment, but he's not with the group. He's working with an individual coach, and De Zerbi is observing him closely. He says he really feels for him and what he's been through. But yeah, fingers crossed for Dejan soon, because he's a fantastic player, brings amazing energy, unpredictability at number 10, a wonderful left foot. And personally, from a journalist perspective, he's an absolute dream in the mix zone. Speaking to him afterwards, he's always someone you can count on to speak to the media afterwards, and he always speaks really well. So fingers crossed for Dejan Kulusevski. Finally, let's talk about the likely lineup. It's pretty much what I expected in the video that I said when I did the Brentford preview a couple of days ago. You're going to have Kinski in goal. Gray now seems to be confirmed at right back, given Porro's not going to play. Van Hecke, Senesi, Robertson. Imagine it'll be Fernandez rather than Bergvall to play alongside Tonali. Gallagher at number 10. Micky Moore, I now expect to play. People close to him weren't quite sure earlier in this week whether he would feature, but it does seem like he will do now. And I would expect his loan to Cologne to probably go through next week. And then Matisse Tel on the left and Richarlison up top. That is the team that I'm expecting against Brentford. Let me know your thoughts, what your thoughts are on the game, what's a good result, and your many thoughts on Van de Ven being captain, the other vice captains, the amount of captains De Zerbi's got, his thoughts on criticism about Spurs spending big, all these different things. Let me know your thoughts, and Savinho, of course, getting that over the line, who you'd like to get through next. And if you can't get Gakpo, but you can get someone else as well as Marmoush, who do you want it to be? Let me know, guys. Cheers.